Gary Griffith, the political leader of the NTA, this morning with us, giving when NTA came into existence. Of course, I know you would have had issue with policies and I guess just the approach of the what you consider the catch-up party, which indeed is the PNM. You would have mentioned the mustard party, which I'm sure in that point in time would have been directing towards the UNC. So when I saw the accommodation, honestly, I was a bit surprised because I really thought NTA were going to be in it for the long haul, thinking of the longer push, the probably 2025 into 2030 campaign, giving yourselves enough room, enough headway to make that particular push a momentum, because we have seen in the past, people taking their time and getting to the promised land, as it were. So me personally, when I saw the accommodation, I was a bit taken aback. However, I'm sure it was strategic, and you'll explain to us yet again, for those who did not get a chance to truly understand the dynamic of that coming together, as it were, and NT's position on that said accommodation. I mean, I must say, Gary, as I said, I was a bit surprised.
Yeah, sure. Good morning. It is not coincidental that 31 of the 45 US presidents had military experience or military service. My training for the Royal Military Academy, Sanders trained me for battle, for war, strategy, tactics, not just making decisions based on emotion. And as it pertains to what we call a third party, that is exactly why it is I utilize the same type of strategy and tactics to ensure success. Persons who want Gary Griffith to return to try to provide them with their fundamental right of safety and security or good service, good delivery. It cannot happen unless we are in government or part of government. So for the persons who, there are persons who did have some degree of concern. So let me just clarify it as simple as I can. For every 100 votes you will find in the upcoming election, PNM will get about 40, the UNC will get probably about 30, and the NT will get about 30. Because of our first past the post system, it means that PNM will always win, even if they have the minority. So we listen to some persons, no, we must stay there, we must go for the long haul. The UNR did the long haul, got 91,000 votes, didn't get a seat in 1981. In 1991, the NAR went for the long haul, they got 127,000 votes, they did not get a seat. In 2007, the COP went for the long haul, they got 147,000 votes, they did not get a seat. So now it's called the NT. In 10 years, it may be something different, ABC, XYZ, it doesn't matter. That bridge constituency, that third constituency, it is always there. Because of how the PNM drafted our constitution, it virtually eliminates that third party because we don't have proportional representation. So we will continue at 100, probably I will have at the NTA, we will probably have 170,000 persons supporting us, but we will not be able to win anything. We will get lots of seconds, lots of thirds. We'll be like the Atto Bolans of politics in Trinidad and Tobago and never get into the pinnacle of that gold medal. The best way it happens is when you form a strategic alliance. And people complain about coalition governments. There have been over 80 coalition governments around the world. That's almost half of the countries around the world. Some have worked, some have not worked. Similar to when a government stays and works on their own. Many have worked, many have not worked. The present situation is a perfect example of it not working. So, but the importance is that every single time there's a coalition in Trinidad and Tobago, every single time the PNM is defeated. In 1986 with the NAR, when the ONR joined with the ULF, in 1995, when that caused A.N.R. Robinson to, Basdio Pandey, UNC working with A.N.R. Robinson's party. And then in 2010, with the People's Partnership, both in the general election and the local government election.
And as we mentioned 2010, I mean, obviously, that is what I'm coming to. We would have seen this coalition, this accommodation before. What's going to make this new, I would say, this new version of it different compared to that 2010 experience? Because you was part of that. You were, I mean, yourself, Mr. Warner, Kamala Pasabi-Sessa, not foes, there is familiarity. You all know each other from that particular time. Of course, things went a bit awry, and we don't want to go back into the archives, into the history. Yeah. But the fact is, seeing everyone together now under this new umbrella, this new accommodation, what's going to be different compared to, let's say, 2010 to 2015?
Yeah, sure, a lot, because in 2010, it was a rush. It was a rush job because that was as soon as the COP started having meetings with the UNC, Patrick Manning rushed to call a snap election because he saw what was happening. That, in addition to sleazy people in his own cabinet trying to backstab him, I wouldn't call names. And then when it is that you had to rush in there, within 2 months, you had to rush to form a strategic alliance. You tried cosmetic type of accommodation, call it the Pfizer Accord and so forth. And therein lies the difference. We have time. So, and this is similar to the model that I am looking at is similar to 1983. 1983, when there was a local government election, the ONR went on strategic seats and the ULF stayed away. The ULF went for seats that the ONR stayed away. And it set a template for 1986 with the NAR. And that is the same system that we are looking at right now. So this time around, after we are successful in the local government election, we now have a framework, we have time, and then the difference is going to be collaboration, communication, coordination, and above all, mutual respect. And that is where it is we're going to see the difference. So for persons who insisted that 89% of persons who wanted me to remain as Commissioner of Police and did not have a concern, and they want me to return to secure their environment, secure their community, their borough, their corporation, their city. The only way that I can get back in there to serve you and to ensure that you have your fundamental right of safety and security, and not just about security, the same way I was able to transform the police service, I can do the same with all the major things that you need: health, education, the economy, roads, lights. But that can only be done if I am in a position of authority to serve you. And the only way that could be done is to form this type of strategic alliance. Persons who do not want it, it means indirectly you're saying that you want Keith Rowley to remain.
Well, let me ask you, the public, I would say, disruption and discord between yourself and the Prime Minister, it's been televised. It's no secret. You have to be living El Tikush to not know what's happening. The reality is, I recall in 2010, the campaign then was Manning must go. He went. The campaign now is Rowley must go, and I'm sure that will be the chorus going into 2025. My question is, if Rowley goes, then what?
Then what you're going to get is, this is the first time in this country's history we are seeing what is known as creeping dictatorship, where it is that we have police resources being utilized and directed towards targeting political opponents. You cannot get worse than that.
What happened in Samoa? Because I saw a statement from one of your team members talking about an incident that happened for a political meeting. Apparently, the municipal police were called out to monitor or just to give security in this particular...
No, they were given instructions by the chairman, Anthony Roberts. That's what I was told by the municipal police, that he gave instructions to the municipal police to have us removed. And I stood my ground. I stand my ground. And I said, well, please explain what is the law that we are breaking. And she didn't know. And then the police service, the task force, the Northern Division, they were there because we wrote to Barataria, to Mova Station. We informed them what was happening. They acknowledged, they provided the police. And then lo and behold, this man, in the same manner as his prime minister, believes that they can control and direct the police service. So unfortunately, the municipal police were very embarrassed. They said, "So we're sorry, but this is what came to our attention." And I said, well, all right, well, just tell me what is the law. And then they went, because there wasn't. And that is typical of the PNM. They feel they could control the police. And that is what caused the problem between Keith Rowley and myself. It had nothing to do with firearms. It had to do with when a prime minister or a government pumps $45 million into the police account, and then you tell the commissioner of police, these funds are to be used specifically to hire foreign attorneys, and these are the investigations involving political opponents to have them arrested. That is madness. So when I speak about a government should have collapsed, any other developed country, that would happen. But this is what we are seeing right now. I can give you a quick example. This prime minister, he plays golf about 4 days a week in Mocha from 7 a.m. to midday, and then from midday to 2 p.m. he hangs out with the boys in the club. I was passing a couple of days ago, as usual, while I was there visiting candidates and walking around in Lopino, Point Fortin, Debe, in Marabella, all in one day on Saturday. He's playing golf, and it shows the difference in leadership. And I looked at him and I said, while I was in my car, I said, there you go again, doing nothing else but playing golf, being lazy. And the special branch officers are frustrated. They stand up in the sun for several hours while this man plays golf. And he has a problem with that. And the same special branch officers, we have dozens of officers, have to secure an individual whilst with the situation in this country. So there's so much that we can see from failures, from health, education, the economy, national security. I have walked the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago, Trinidad JW, from the heights of Paramin, Scorpion and Caranage, Beetham, Sealots, Nelson Street, Jones Street, Lavantil Road, Aruka, Arima, Maloney.
How was it going back to Silots? I wanted to find out that before we press on with some other pressing. I want to see how much more I can get in, because I know when you were commissioner, you went there and it was very contentious at the time. You went down there. I remember the video vividly. You know, boots on ground, gun in hand, and just telling the residents to push back, and it was a real back and forth. How was it? How were you received in that particular space?
And that is the interesting thing. As I was mentioning, all the places that I have gone, what the one thing you've heard from all of these places that are seen as PNM country, they've said they've never seen Keith Rowley in any of these places, because in their perception, this is PNM country, I don't need to represent myself. And their councillors operate in the same manner as their prime minister. They have never seen the PNM councillors since 2019. So similar to Ceylon, I go into Ceylon, and all of these places I've gone, not one person has said anything negative about me. I have received no confrontation. I almost got a few dog bites, probably PNM dogs, but at no time was there any confrontation. It says a lot for the dynamics and the change in persons in these areas who felt that this was PNM country. They say no more. They want to make a clear and present, a clear message, a loud message to Keith Rowley on August the 14th. Enough is enough.
Let me ask you realistically, how much you think? What's your forecast coming out of the election? Again, it's been always a low turnout. Let's see if things change come early, a couple of days before the local. But when you sit down with your strategy team, realistically, Gary, what you're thinking will be the outcome for the NTA and this accommodation?
You know, that's a good question. What is unfortunate is that we have so many media houses, and not one has done a poll. Not one. There was one company I know did a poll. And this is only scientific polls. So we're not speaking about these call-in polls and these social media polls where it will always be biased. There have been several polls that had NTA 60%, which I know is impossible. The one scientific poll I saw, it had PNM 45%, UNC 42%. The NTA 10 or 11%, the other parties 0.3% or whatever. And then what it shows is that PNM going against UNC in a two-horse race, PNM would win. The NTA, or they call it the NTA, the ONR, whatever, the same amount of percentage we still have, which is between 10 and 13%, which is equivalent to the 147,000 votes in 2007, and still not being able to get a seat. But when you join the UNC is 42%, with the NTA is 11%, the PNM is annihilated. And that is the data. That is exactly what the PNM got inside the PNM's dressing room. That is why Keith Rowley got his meltdown in St. James and spent 47 out of 55 minutes attacking a leader of a political party that's less than a year old. And that is exactly what we're getting. So worst case scenario, I think it will be 8-6. And the reason I'm saying 8 is because presently it is 7-7. The San Fernando area, I have walked the length and breadth in 2 of the seats that PNM presently hold, where they won by 30 and 80 odd votes. And as I mentioned to those persons, especially in certain communities that may have changed their mind and did not want to vote for the UNC or was slightly angled towards the PNM, I have asked them that a vote for the UNC candidate is a vote for me. Defeat them, and then it gives me the opportunity, Gary Griffith, to get into San Fernando and make it a safer San Fernando. PNM have already conceded. So it's 8-6, worst case scenario. Best case scenario, as in 2010, when the COP and the UNC votes joined, we also won Diego Martin, Arima, Tunapuna, Piarco. And there's a chance as well for Point Fortin. So worst case scenario, 8-6, best case, 12-2.
Let me ask you, as we continue, and again, I want to try and get as many questions in this morning. When Jack Warner made his return at the Center of Excellence, and that particular picture, the accommodation picture, went to the front page the next day, and it was this massive welcome for Mr. Warner. I actually thought you were going to be given an opportunity to speak. What went on that night? Was it already predetermined that that was Mr. Warner's night, and you weren't going to speak? How come you didn't talk that night?
Things didn't go according to plan. I was supposed to speak from 8 to 8:15, Mr. Warner, from 8:15 to 8:30, and Kamala Prasad Visesa until 9 p.m. And then how the timeline went, because they were putting out candidates on the platform from the UNC and the NTA. The time started being squeezed, and then I told the MC and I told Kamala Prasad Visesa, let me step down. It's the first time that he's back out on stage in several years. It will have given him a great opportunity to spend a few more minutes to speak, and the same with herself. Automatically, the certain persons on the other side, the catch-up side, they are so excited and hope. I am in it to win it. I do not lose. I do not fail. And just to confirm that, tomorrow night I'll be speaking. I think I'll be speaking tomorrow night in a UNC meeting in San Fernando, and next week Thursday in Arima.
Okay.
Often you want to hear Gary Griffith speak. So let's not take anything out of it. This was my personal decision. She looked at me. You'll actually see the camera. She said, "What's going on?" I said, "You're behind time. Let me sit out this one so that Jack and yourself could get more playing time." That's all it was.
Let me ask you, based on one of the current stories, I'm seeing Kamala's controversial advice, as mentioned here by The Guardian, to light them up, the stand your ground law. Now, we would have seen that stand your ground as you're familiar with Florida and the fact that it's also there. And we saw Trayvon Martin, that unfortunate scenario. His only crime was wearing a hoodie in an area that, quote unquote, he did not belong. I wonder if indeed, with all that's happening in Trinidad, and yes, the crime scenario, it is out of hand. We could all agree on that. That's no disagreement there. But if the stand your ground law, as I mentioned in my monologue, comes into play, if that will be a good move for Trinidad and Tobago or a move backward. What's your take?
Well, okay, let me shock my words. If you use the stand your ground law to the letter of the law, it is not the right thing. And that is the problem. Keith Rowley has misinformed the country. He has misled the country. He continues to give the impression that what Kamala Persad-Bissessé is saying is that if a child's football goes in your yard, you have the right to kill the child. Or if you go to steal a mango, you have the right to kill the person. That is not what she is saying. That is being mischievous. And it goes with the individual. He wants to lead a country, but you hate half of the country by making a comment to state that that guns are being given to one race to kill another. Again, in any other developed country, that man should be removed from office. That is, you have basically tried to incite civil war. And we sit down and we listen to this man speak in such a tone. So as it pertains to stand your ground, it is not the letter of the law we are speaking about. We are speaking about the problem that exists presently, where the rights of criminals seem to have benefit and bias in the scales of justice over the rights of law-abiding citizens. And when you hear a prime minister continue to demand, and then he has this person who comes out as an MC, and she's screaming at her eyes wide, like when a manito gets the car lights and they can't move, and I'm calling her name. And she's screaming, "We're not going to stand your ground," and all her hands flying in the air. They are so emotional. It seems that they are so concerned that criminals could be affected. And so when Keith Rowley speaks about Gary Griffith, I issued to civilians 2,000 odd firearms out of over 50,000 outstanding applications. 2,000 out of 1.4 million people is like something like 0.15% or something. And this man has the audacity to lie to say that equates with us wanting to give guns to every single person. That is not true, JW. If you give out 2,000 firearms out of 50,000 applicants, what is wrong with that? And in that period that I was there for that 3 years, not one was lost, not one was stolen, not one was used for a crime, not one was used for murder, but dozens upon dozens of lives were saved. I am insisting, and I am on the same track with Kamala Persad-Bissessé. Why should firearms be only given to the rich and famous, to the friends and families of ministers? This same prime minister, his minister of national security, and the previous commissioner of police, between the three of them, over 70 requests were given to get guns for their friends. This is the same prime minister that was harassing me to get a firearm dealership license for somebody he knows in Tobago for hundreds of guns to be sold. It shows what a hypocrite he is. So this is not about giving out guns willy-nilly to each and every person. There's a strategic system. And my system, imagine I gave out 2,000 and not one was used the wrong way. Before me, less would have been given and more firearms would have been lost, would have been misplaced, would have been used for a crime, would have been used in a negligent discharge. So it shows that my system worked. And that is where, and so the concept of stand your ground is not the letter of the law that caused the issue for Zimmerman to be released, but it is to show that if somebody kicks down your door and they are running up your stairs and you're a wife, you can take the firearm of your husband who may not be home, defend yourself and your family to neutralize the person, and you now do not have to be worried about having to face manslaughter charges or using an issued firearm that is not yours, which has happened a few days ago by this young lady. So all that we are saying is that we have to amend the laws to ensure that the rights of citizens the scales of justice can be tilted towards their rights over the rights of criminals. And it seems that Keith Rowley and the Manikou lady with her eyes wide open when she speaks on the platform, they need to understand that.
Mr. Griffith, as we wrap things up this morning, I'll give you the opportunity to, again, look into camera and tell the nation as to why a vote for the NTA in this local government election is a vote in the right direction.
Because in the PNM, and this is nothing against the PNM, it is the RPNM, the Rowley PNM, they have lost their way. Their their plan to tell the country to vote for them is because of the need for local government reform. Let me say it for the first time to Trinidad and Tobago. That is a lie. Because whether PNM wins 40-0 or they lose 40-0, it does not affect their plan towards local government reform. Local government reform requires constitutional change. Constitutional change requires the 41 members of parliament. That is something that is done in central government. So the lie that they're trying to give you that the importance of you voting them back in for local government is because of the need for local government reform. The results on August the 14th does not stop them moving forward with that on August the 15th. In fact, the PNM have been pushing this since 1956. I have their 1956 manifesto, their 1981, and their 1991. It has been a road march for an excuse for people not judging them based on performance. So the point that I'm saying is that this election, the PNM could out-finance us, but they cannot outperform us. You have to look at the persons, the people, the policies, and the political will. And I give you the assurance that come August the 14th, you vote for the UNC or the NTA candidate, and we will see the turnaround in providing you with the service that you deserve.
Mr. Griffith, thank you for the time this morning, and we'll touch base. I know you're very busy, so probably when the dust settles post August 14th, we'll get a chance to touch base again.
Anytime. Take care.